This is Gemara Menachos Daf Tzadik Vav, and we're holding on Tzadihei Amebez. We are 4 lines from the bottom. Rav Yehuda Omer Kol Ma'iseihem Bifnim. We quote the next line in the Mishnah. Shitas Rav Yehuda. The Rav Yehuda teaches us all the procedures preparing of the lechems, lechem apanim, shtei lechems. We're going to see has to be done inside. Rav Shimon argues, and Rav Shimon says, and Haya Omer. Rav Shimon would say that the shtei lechem apanim are kosher in the Chatzar and are kosher in Beis Pagi. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Avua Bar Kahana, Ushneim Mikrecha Darshu, and both Shitais, Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon, and as much as they are clearly arguing, they are both darshaning the same pasuk. Says the pasuk, V'hu derech. Says the pasuk by the David HaMelech talking to Kahanim of year Noif, V'derech achol, and the bread is in a way of chol. Avki ayoim yikdash bekli, even though today it will be kaddish bekli. So what do we do with this pasuk? So says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda Savar. Excuse me. Rav Yehuda Savar in the first white line. Bechol ashkachenu. Says Rav Yehuda, it is in a way of chol, and that what ka'afulei, that it was baked. Nachamal. Rav Yehuda Savar b'chol shechinu ka'afulei, that David found the Kahana baking the bread on a chol, on a Friday. And Amar Lahu David HaMelech says to the Kahanim, derech kol kafi too. Are you baking it bechol? Are you breaking it on a weekday? Even though today will be kaddish bekli, meaning it'll be kaddish in an oven, and therefore ifsal belina, it's going to be possible belina on Shabbos. So Rabbi Yehuda was saying that what was David saying? David was saying that the bread becomes kaddish b'tanor in the oven, and therefore when should you bake the bread? Not on Friday, only rather on Shabbos. Why? Because if it's baked on Friday, we're going to have a problem that you can have a psolina, that the bread is going to have kedusha already on Friday. It's going to stay overnight, and then come Shabbos, and there's a psolina. Says the Gemara, Rav Shimon Savar. Rav Shimon holds b'Shabbos ashkachenu. They argue in the storyline, and that's why Shneim Mikra Echad Darshu. The both darshu the same pasuk. What David HaMelech is saying, but says Rav Shimon that David HaMelech found them when it was on Shabbos. To Kafule and Amar Lahu, and David HaMelech says to them, Lo derechol bayitu limevdei. Says David HaMelech, should you not be doing this bachol on the weekday? Mideitan or mekadesh? Does the oven consecrate the bread? Shulchan hu the mekadesh. The shulchan is that which is mekadesh. And if the shulchan is mekadesh, not the oven, says Rav Shimon, therefore there's no kedusha when the bread is placed in the oven, and therefore there's no reason to be baking the bread on Shabbos. You could bake it on a Friday. So they're both learning from the same pasuk. Umimatis amrit. So again, this is Rav Avua Bar Kahana explaining what the machlekes of Yehuda and Rav Shimon in the Gemara, and it's based on a pasuk, based on learning the pasuk that David HaMelech found the Kehanim baking the bread. But frag the Gemara on the premise of the whole way we're learning the pasuk. Omimatis amrit b'shas afiyash kachinu. We found them baking the bread. V'aksiva the pasuk says ve'yitin lo ha'kayin kodesh. Ki lo yasham lechem giv lechem apanim ha'mosarim lifnei Hashem. Says the pasuk, they kind of gave him the holy bread because there was no bread. Why not? Aside from the lechem apanim that was removed. So what do we see over here? The David HaMelech is seemingly arriving after the lechem has come off of the shulchan, and now when they're breaking the new bread. So what does it mean that David HaMelech said it's derechol? Says the Gemara, Hachi Kamerle, this is how you read the pasuk. Leka lechem. they were saying there's no bread available. Ki im alechem hapanim amusarim lefnei Hashem. Aside for the lechem hapanim that was already masur, that was already removed from lefnei Hashem, Amar lo, and David HaMelech says to them, Loi mi bai. Hi, it's not even necessary to talk about the bread that's been removed. The kibbutz derech hol, since it's left mi'ila, it's considered derech hol. El afilu heich nami. But even the other bread, you could give to eat. And it continues the Gemara, why? Why that even bread that's derech, a kodesh, could it be given to eat as we turn over to Sadik Vav Amud Aleph? Says the Gemara, you know why? Because Mesukanu, because he's saying to David HaMelech that my life is in danger. It is a matziv of sakana, she'achzoi bulmis. And Allah is, it has this disease of bulmis, as Rashi in the top line spells out. We let him to eat even on Yom HaKippurim. So too over here. That's why he was saying he'll be allowed to eat the bread. So says the Gemara, if this pasuk is not able to be teaches the Makar for the Mishnah, so what is? So Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon, the Gemara, Palig, they argue in a Messiah, they argue in a Halach L'Moshe Sinai, whether the Tanur is Mekadesh the bread or not, and that's going to be the Machlekes. It says the Gemara, Nami, I'll bring you a raya, the Katani of Shimon Aimer Leilam, Havi Rogel Leimar, that Lashon that we saw, that interesting Lashon in the Mishnah, that Rav Shimon said, we are accustomed to saying, Shelech Melchapanim Ksheros Ba'azar Ksheros, Abeis Pagi Shmas Mina, the Lashon shows us it wasn't Alim and Akra, but rather Leilam HaYomer, that what? It was a Messiah, it was a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Says the Gemara, let's dive into a long and lengthy Mishnah. 5 lines down, Sadik Vav Amud Aleph, about the Minchas Chavitim, the carbon that was brought each and every day by the Kohen Gadol. And we'll just remind ourselves, it was brought each and every day by the Kohen Gadol. And it was also brought the first time one does avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, it was an inaugural carbon, while at the same time being the carbon of the Kohen Gadol each and every day. Says the Mishnah, Chavite Kohen Gadol Ishasan, the kneading, Varichasan, and the preparing, Vafiyasan, and the baking, Bifnim is all done inside the Azara. V'doiches is a Shabbos. Tchinasa, the grinding of the wheat, Varkadasan, and the sifting in, Odoiches is Shabbos. Klal Amar Rabbi Akiva, Kol Melach Hashav Shalasayis Erev Shabbos. Any melacha that could be done Erev Shabbos, Einoi Toiches HaShabbos. That melacha will not be Toiches Shabbos. But v'sheyev Shalasayis Erev Shabbos. A melacha that cannot be done Erev Shabbos, then yes, Toiches HaShabbos. Continues the Mishnah. Kol HaMenachos, back to a regular carbon mincha. Yesh behem Maisa Kli. Bifnim, they have a Maisa the kneading and the shaping done inside the Azara. Ve'ein b'hem Maisa Kli, pachotz, that's done outside of the Azara. Shtei alechem, how do you make them? Arkan, their length was Shiva Tvachim. A tefach is about 6 inches. So we're looking at the length of 42 inches, approximately 42 inches approximately for the Shtei Alechem. Rechavan Dalet Tvachim, and the width is Dalet Tvachim, so about 2 feet by, 7 times 6 is, this is the first time, 42 inches is much more than 2 feet. It's more like closer to 3.5 feet long. Quite the long breads. Rechavan, and their width were Dalet Tvachim. Karnoiseyem, and their horns were Arba Tvachim. Lechem HaPanim, that was the Shtei HaLechem. The Lechem HaPanim, in contrast, was Arkan, was Yod Tvachim. Their length was Yod Tvachim. Rechavan was Chamisha Tvachim, even larger. Karnoiseyem, Sheva Etzbois. Rav Yehuda Imer says, Rav Yehuda Shaloititeh Zidad, you have a memory mnemonic to try to remember how the length and the size of each of the breads. Says the Gemara Vayter. Ben Zayma, says Ben Zayma, says the Torah, V'nasat al shulchan lechem aponim. What does the word lechem aponim mean? Lefanai tamid. Lechem panim sheyu loy panim ashulchan. That we learn out from the pasuk that it should be, again, the pasuk v'nasat al shulchan lechem panim lefanai tamid. Lechem panim means sheyu lo panim, that should have faces, that should have different surfaces. It should be that interesting shape. HaShulchan, how big was the Shulchan? Arkai, the length was Yod with 10 Tfachim, the same length as the Lechem HaPanim themselves. Urachavai was Chamisha. Lechem HaPanim, Arka was Yod. Urachava Chamisha. Noisin Arkai Geneged Urachavai Shal HaShulchan. The length goes to the width. V'koifel Tifachayim. Umechsa Mikan. And he bends it up 2.5 Tfachim. From one side, it's very mechsa mikan and 2.5 tefachim from the other side. Hopefully, our highlighting will come back on in a moment. Nimsa arkai memale rachmash al shulchan. The length of one bread fills up the width of the other bread. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's how the breads were placed, perpendicular, the length to the width of the shulchan. Rabbi Meir Aimer, no. Ha shulchan was arka yud beis. Urachava was vav, lechma panim arka yud, urachava hey. So notice in arka, keneged rachva, shal shulchan. And then kafel tefachayim mikan, tefachayim mikan, not 2.5, rather 2 tefachim from each side. Revach be'emsa. Now there's a space in the middle. Revach menasheves, ruach menasheves be'em. You have to have a place in the middle because you want to have air that's able to come between them in order to keep the breads, fresh. We will try as we go weiter the Mishnah. Let's pull up a picture of what's going on over here for a little bit of clarity. But before we get there, let's go one more sheet to the Mishnah, and then we'll circle back around, hopefully with a little bit of a picture. Abba Shaul Aimer, says Abba Shaul, about those 2 tefachim of empty space. The 2 tefachim of empty place was where they put the bezicha levayna, those 2 spoonfuls of frankincense of levayna were placed in that empty place of between the 2 breads on the shulchan. Okay, before we go weiter, Amrulai, let's just quickly pull up a picture of what's going on over here. You see over here, courtesy of ArtScroll, you see how the breads are 5 tefachim by, and the 2 of them, the arkan is going to be keneged rachvan. It's 5 by 10. We'll go with the first sheet to explain. That's what this is a picture of. And then the folds up are 2.5 on each side, leaving you 5 by 5, and it still will fill up the entire 10. Continues the Gemara, continues the Mishnah. Amrullah, the comes very kvar nemar, but the pasuk says, Zaka, that it should place on the stack, on the maracha, a love, on it, which shows us that it doesn't actually go next to, it sounds like it goes on the lechem abanim itself. Amr lehem responds Abba Shaul, Harikvar Navar, Vala Mata Menashe, that upon it was the Mata Menashe, we see doesn't mean actually on it, means near it. So too by us will be the same thing. Varbas and even Shalzava Yasham, the 4 props of gold, Mefutzalim Irashayim, projections at the top, which kind of would support, that's what the Lechem HaPanim was rested on. Shnayim, 2 of them. Shnayim l'seder, 2 for each side. V'chavches kanim kechatzi kana. And 28 rods, kechatzi kana chalol, each like a hollow reed. Kechatzi, one more time. And 20 reeds, kechatzi kana, like a half a reed. Chalol, hollow out. Arba, so let's say there's 14 for this seder, and v'yodal, let's say there's 14 for that seder. Lo yisider kanim v'lo nitaltem. The arranging of the kanim nor the taking of the kanim For what Eichas Shabbos, El Nichlas Be'erev Shabbos, V'Shem Tevinasel Arka Shel Shulchan, Kol Keshem Mikdash Arka, the Arka Shel Habayis. All Kalim of the Mishkan, says the Mishnah, the length of the Keli always went with the length of the Mishkan of the Beis HaMikdash. Let's pull up one more picture over here in which you could see the mefusalim. You could see the side pieces are those props, 4 of them, the snifim, the mefusalim going, creating the shelves that the lechem hapanim sat upon. And with that, we dive straight into the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Kol ha-menachos yeshen ma'asikli mibifnim. There are those that the lishan aricha are done with a keli inside. Are done with a keli inside. Shalu es Rabbi Zayma, that's the Mishnah. So they asked Rabbi Zayma, minayin. Zuminayim. Where do we know this? Where do we know that the lisha and the richa of the mincha must be done in kli shares inside the Beis HaMikdash? Says the Gemara. I'll tell you this is the place that the Kohanim baked as a chatas dasham sheyavu as a mincha lebelti oitzi ala chatzer achitzaina. And where they should make the mincha and not bring it to the chatechana. Mincha dam yalasha v'chata v'chatas. Ma'asha v'chatas tunim kli mincha nami tunim kli. So both of them are going to be tunim kli. Continues the Gemara with the dimensions of the shulchan. We're 5 lines into the white lines on Tzadik Vav Amud Aleph. Halv shulchan was Arkei Asara, was 10 tefachim long. Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'Yomer Tvachayim u'Mechsa Kaifel. They folded over 2.5. Nimza Shulchan Mekadesh. Chamisha Aser Tvachim Lamala. It was 15 Tvachim tall. Rabbi Yomer Tvachayim Kaifel. They folded up 2 Tvachim. Nimza Shulchan Mekadesh should be Tvachim Lamala. What was the airspace of the Shulchan? Was it a height of 15 or was it a height of 12? Says the Gemara, you're just counting the bread itself. What about the rods? Says the Gemara, they were sunken into the bread. They didn't add on any extra weight. My time, cause they don't want the bread to become moldy. Therefore, in order to do that, the rods would allow air to flow between the loaves, and Afuch. My taima afushi lechem save lechem. But in the end, it's going to become moldy. Why? Because they're folding on top of each other. Meaning, why do you have the rods in the first place? To give a little bit of airspace. But if they're mamish sunken one on top of each other, then the rods are doing nothing. Says no, the magule porta. They raise it up a little bit. But then v'yigalu porta, so it's not 12 or 15 tvachim, it's a little bit more. Says the Gemara, keep lavi tevach leichashavlu. You're right, but doesn't equal actual tevach, so we do not count it. V'yikol bazichen. What about the spoonfuls of bazichen on top of all the breads, and therefore it's a higher than 12 or 15. Begavia de lechem have yasvi debahadi lechem have kaima. Spoon rested inside the bread, and therefore it was the same height as the bread. V'yikol kronis. But what about the horns, making it a little bit taller? Kronis legave de lechem kayiflu v'lechem alayu nachlu. They're folded into the lower bread, and therefore it didn't add on any extra height. We turn over to Tzadik Vav and Beis. It says, well, 1 second, we're forgetting there was a component of the Shulchan, seemingly, asked the Gemara, that should also add on height. What about V'yikamas Gartoi? Says the Gemara, what about the Miskeres around the Shulchan, the frame, which should also add on an extra height? Command Amar. Miskartoi lemata. Says the Gemara of Yochanan holds that the frame was below, and therefore it does not add on anything else. It bent out upward, meaning it was a frame that it went inside. As we learned in the Brayz, there was the miskarta shel shulchan that held up the bread. Amrulai miskarta lamata isa, therefore it doesn't add on any extra height. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yechon. Let's go a little bit deeper into the Miskares, how exactly it was created. The Divrei Omer Miskarta Lamata, so according to that, it says the Miskarta, the frame was below. Tavla Misabeches, Toma. So let's bring a raya that a Tavla Misabeches, a flipped over tabla, a wooden slab that can be used on either side, is yes, mikabel toma, because that's exactly what the shulchan was. There was no base kibble, and yet it could potentially become tamei. The devrei hamizabechas toma, devrei miskarta lamaila, so tabla misabechas tibaylacha. So then we should ask, what is the story of the tabla misabechas? We don't have a raya. Says the Gemara, Mechlal, your whole shaila is based upon what? 12 lines down, the first one line is Mechlal. The Shulchan Bar Kabbalah Tumahu. You're basing off the premise that the Shulchan is Yem Kabbalah Tumah. But why is that true? So wooden kli that's made to remain stationary, and in case v'chol kli eitz asul nachas ein mekabel tuma. Says the Gemara, my timer, dumya disak. Being on Masag Metalta Mali Varekan, it's moved full and empty. I've come Metalta Mali Varekan. Shochanami I Metalta Mali Varekan. Because the Rishlakish Tam Rishlakish might have said al Shochan Tar Mechlal Dika Tame El Malami Shokvino Soy Laili Regalim. So says the Gemara. So what is the reason that it's going to Makabal Tama? The reason is they left up the Shulchan before the Laili Regalim Umarim Lanachem, and they would show them the bread. Vamir Lahem Ruchi Ba'aslem Malcolm. Look how much Kadosh Baruch Hu loves you. Because Yeshua ben Levi. That what? I'm Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Neiskadol Nasav Lechem Aponim Siluka Kisidzurai. You took it off, it was as fresh as when you put it on. Shenamar Losum Lechem Cham Bayami Lachai V'Tebul Misham. And that's the reason why. It's Makabal Tama. Why? Because the Shulchan, one of its functions was to lift up the bread, and therefore it's going to be a utensil that's made to lift things, and therefore it is Makabal Tama. Why do we say that's Makabal Tama? Because of its covering. Miloi Tanad, we learn in the Mishnah, Shulchan Vadul Vaki, Shenivchasu, Oy, Shechipan Beshayish, if we have a table, or a wooden table, or a wooden chair, that becomes minimized, or you cover with marble, v'shayir ben makayim hanochas kaises, and it means in it enough room to place cups to meim. Rav Yehuda Omer makam hanochas chatichais, a place to put on a small piece of meat. Also, not just place for a cup. Shayir in. So what do we see if there's space in? Lo shayir loy. If there's no space in that. So says the Gemara, what do we see? We see that if the plating on an item is so thick that there remains no area left for the item, then it's no longer a din of a wooden kli, and rather it's a new entity, it's a new kli called the kli of shayish, a kli of matechas, etc. And therefore, it's not going to be makabel tama. Says the Gemara, so maybe you're going to tell me, maybe there's different levels of sipoy, different levels of covering to the kelim. Says the Gemara, he asks this as a shayla, does it apply only when the plating is the vazvazin? As we turn over to something zayin amid aleph, the rim, as levazazin. Ve'amar lei, and how did Rav Yechon respond? Lo shano, lo shasipa, made lo shasipa sheina, made lo shachipa lezvazim, lo shachipa lezvazim. It makes no difference. So whether it's covered fully or not, says the Gemara, we see that it has to be makabel tama. So why do Rish Lakish say that the reason is they would pick up the table? And that's how it's being makabel tama. Chitim, maybe you're going to tell me, atzei shitim chashivi. That's a shitim ar chashiv v'loy betili, and there's no bottle. But honey chorish lakish damar lo shanel bekli achsel goes habam medina sayam. The Rabbanan didn't teach the day that the wood is bottled to the keli only by the kli achsolzis, the wooden type that came from overseas, which is not very chashiv. Aval kli mesames. But if we have a kli mismas chashiv v'loy batli shapir, then there wouldn't be a shel be'ol. But that's only Reish Lakish. El Rav Yechon and Amar kli misamis nami batal Michael and Meimar, so it's going to be batal. Shall the din of the plating, and then she asks you mekabel tama, regardless whether you pick it up or not. Says the Gemara, you're right, but And with this, we'll conclude. Shiny Shulchan. Don't ask a kasha. Why? The Rachmana Karya eats. The Torah calls it a wooden cliche. Razvech eats shal shamas kavoa arko shayim atmois muksayis live arko kirosav eats. Vaydaber. Eliza Shulchan Hashem of Hashem. So as much as it's covering Lamaisa is the status of eats from the fact that Hashem calls it such. Pasuk b'mizbeach v'shakti Gemara. Actually, you know what? We've already gone well overboard. Let's stop over here. I'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmai.